Hi everyone, my name is Lisa Snow and welcome to A Conscious Earth. So today I wanted to throw a little bit of a spanner in the works and to get you thinking on some of those things that we have been brought up with, believing that may not actually be as accurate as what we once thought. And so that topic today is about genes and our DNA. Now, I'm not sure about you, but I have always been brought up to be told and to believe that my genes create my genetic destiny. Now, to give you an example of this, within my family, we have a history of diabetes. So you can imagine every time I go to the doctors, I get tested for something, I see a new doctor, whoever it might be, you always get asked that question, do you have a family history of ... Well, my question is here, how is it that you have a set of identical twins, but one identical twins ends up with some form of disease or chronic illness, whilst the other one is perfectly healthy? Well, today I'm going to give you a bit of an understanding what that is all about. And so for me, I have always been told by my own doctor that you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family, meaning you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your genes. Now, this might be correct. I may not be able to pick my genes, but what I do now understand is that I have a very, very big influence as to how my genes express themselves, and so does everybody else. And it was back in the 1950s that the scientists Watson and Crick had made this statement that that our genes they create our genetic destiny. However, this was a theory that was never proven. What has been proven and is continuously being studied today is the new science of epigenetics. And so epigenetics says something completely different about our genes, and I'm going to talk today about the studies of Dr. Bruce Lipton, who is a cellular biologist. So 50 years ago, when Bruce Lipton started his studies on genes and how our genes express themselves, he was the pioneer of the gene theory, who realized that indeed our genes do not control our genetic destiny, and that it's our environment. Now, this is now out there in the world today. However, it's not yet convention, and will probably still take another 10 to 20 years for convention to really catch up with this. And so I feel it's really, really important to share this information with you, because there are so many people who are unwell in this world, who are still looking for that magic pill, but I'm still yet to find anyone who has found that magic pill when it comes to their health. Now, sure, you can go to the doctors, you can get a prescription, you can go to the chemist, you can get whatever you want off the shelves, but from my experience, what I have learned is that those things only ever mask my symptoms. They never actually get to the underlying root cause of the problem. And so again, I used to be someone who suffered from migraines as a child, and I was medicated for that. And sure, I would take the pink little pill that I was given as a child, and my migraine would go away. But then it would come back again time and time again. Now, there was an underlying root cause of the problem, but in medical school, doctors were never taught about underlying root causes of the problem. At least I don't think. Don't quote me on that. I'm not quite sure how they're taught in medical school. And don't get me wrong as well, there are so many wonderful, good, well-meaning doctors in this world who genuinely want to help people. However, there are so many different ways that we can now work with the human body, but quite often we fall into the habit of wanting to give our power over to the doctors, rather than taking responsibility for what we want out of our lives. And so for me, I have had to learn that it's not my doctor's responsibility to give me a pill to get me well. Yes, it might alleviate some symptoms for a little while, but I have to really dig deep to find the root cause of the problem. And that's where stem cell biology comes in. And so Dr. Bruce Lipton, who's a stem cell biologist, he was cloning stem cells 50 years ago. Now, what is a stem cell? A stem cell is an embryonic cell. It's basically our DNA. It's once a sperm and the egg meet and they start to develop, and then before it forms into the blastocyst of the fetus developing. It's when you've got your 23 sets of chromosomes that come together, and that's how they form the genetic cell, right? I haven't quite got the right terminologies around that, so I hope you understand. So for the purpose of this discussion, I'm going to call it the DNA. So Dr. Bruce Lipton back in the day was taking DNA cells, and he was putting them into petri dishes in a lab with medium culture to develop the cell. And so he would watch them divide and divide and divide and divide again, and they would keep dividing. But then you go and take 3 petri dishes and you put exactly the same identical cells in every one of those dishes. You take the same medium culture in every single one of those dishes as well, and you're going to get the same result. But now let's add an environmental factor, which could be in one petri dish, we might add some muscle cells. In another dish, we might add some bone cells. And in another dish, we might add some skin cells. And that's when Bruce Lipton had the aha moment that genes do not control our genetic destiny, and that it's our environment. And so he would watch as he had one set of cells that were with a medium culture with muscles in them. He would watch how they would develop, and they would develop so totally differently to how the cells would express themselves with the culture that had bone matter in them, or the medium culture that had skin matter in them. They would all express themselves very differently. Now, what's this got to do with the human body? Because this was in a science lab. We are approximately 50 trillion cells. 50 trillion cells in the body, and we have about something around 24,000 genes. And so we've got, when you think about that, if we've only got 24,000 sets of genes and we are 50 trillion cells, that actually means that one particular DNA gene can express itself on so many different levels. But let's start looking at ourselves as a human petri dish. So you've got the cells on the inside, you've got the medium culture, which let's call it our blood. Our blood is the medium culture. Now let's go start putting toxins and chemicals and herbicides and pesticides and sprays and all these other things. Let's go put that into our system. How do we think our cells are going to respond? They're going to express themselves probably in a poor way, because it's a negative thing that our body is not supposed to have. But on the other hand, let's take some, say, healthy fruits and vegetables and put that into the petri dish, the human petri dish of cells and the blood as the medium culture. And the cells are going to respond in a completely different way again, because they're getting nourishment, they're getting the positive, they're getting what they need for the body, what we're designed to actually have. And so I find this really fascinating, because that's the aha moment of it's, well, hang on a minute, it's not that our genes control our genetic destiny. It's our environment that controls our genetic destiny. And this is why one twin who gets really unwell and the other one who doesn't have completely different gene expressions, because this twin over here might not be so healthy in the way they look after themselves, whereas this one over here might be really, really healthy in the way they look after themselves. And that's where I feel we need to have this complete shift in the way we think about our genes and how they express themselves. And so this is why when my doctor says to me, oh, you're heading for diabetes, I go, well, thank you for the information. I'm going to take that away, and now I'm going to start changing my environment to ensure that when I get down the track into later on in life, that I don't end up with diabetes. Now, this is just a very, very short introduction on this, and I'm going to come back at another point and I'm going to do more on this at another time. But for now, this is food for thought. I hope you got something out of it, and I look forward to being back with you all again soon. Bye for now.